We're over 100 days into a war that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue. CBS's Charlie D'Agata accompanied the Israeli military into Gaza and filed this.
We crossed into southern Gaza through the same breach in the fence that Hamas militants punched through to launch their rampage, where soldiers of the 55th Brigade, 98th Paratroopers Division showed us a discovery they had made. A soldier kept his rifle pointed straight into the darkness down the shaft. Of the hundreds of miles of tunnels beneath Gaza, this one enabled Hamas fighters to infiltrate under open fields undetected, planned long in advance.
Made a combat patrol here, and he found the hole. The hole was here, very small one, with the ladder.
They're finding tunnels and shafts like this everywhere, but this is just a few hundred yards from the crossing itself, and they believe it was used by Hamas militants to attack that day. We push deeper into the territory toward the besieged city of Khan Yunis, witnessing scenes of utter devastation following weeks of heavy bombardment that have not only leveled nearly every building here, it's taken an horrific toll on the civilian population. The largest city in southern Gaza is still thought to be a Hamas stronghold, where militant leader Yahya Sinwar is, or was, hiding out. Hamas health officials say the death toll has now soared to more than 26,000, among them more than 10,000 children. We came to what used to be an elementary school in this upscale neighborhood, once a Hamas fighting position, we were told, now an Israeli military base. A few moments ago there was a loud explosion, and now the skies are filled with smoke. It just gives you an indication, first of all, how close you are to Khan Yunis itself and how this battle is raging on. We later learned that was a controlled explosion of a building to deny Hamas gunmen places to take cover and counterattack. It's more than just urban warfare, says Lieutenant Colonel Anchi.
They dress with civilian clothing, so they're very difficult to be identified. They move without their ammunition, and they collect it wherever when they pop out from their underground infrastructure, and then they shoot at us. They try to shoot and run away.
The Israeli military say they've got Khan Yunis surrounded. Yet Hamas leaders and the more than 130 hostages still being held are yet to be found. Driving back through the destruction, the challenge is not just about seizing territory above ground, but hunting down what's below.
Charlie D'Agata has just returned to London from reporting in the region. Charlie, journalists are not permitted into Gaza to freely report on the war, and that has been the subject of court cases in Israel. So what restrictions did the IDF put on you?
Yeah, Margaret, we cannot get into Gaza from Israel or from Egypt, for that matter, because the Israelis are holding all the cards. The only way you can get in is with the Israeli military on an embed. And what those restrictions mean is, obviously, by virtue of the fact that they're the ones who are showing you around, then they create the narrative of what you can see. And that particular one, we were there for maybe 2.5 hours. We weren't allowed to broadcast it for 24, 48 hours or even talk about it. There are embargo restrictions. In some cases, they want to see the material, but we never have it censored as such. They never tell us to change the shots. It has to do with security issues. This time, they didn't ask to see it at all. But the difficult part is that we don't have we're not free to roam. We're not free to get any of our own material or access and speak to anybody else there. This is the third embed that I've had. I haven't seen a single Palestinian. I haven't seen any sign of life or death, haven't been able to get to any of these humanitarian centers or hospitals. So it's been impossible for us to independently report what's going on there, aside from the incredibly courageous work of our colleagues inside Gaza. Indeed,
our producer Marwan Al-Ghul and those people living in the middle of this fight. But you have been in Israel for the better part of 3 weeks, and in that time there has been growing international pressure, including this ruling by the International Court of Justice ordering Israel to prevent acts of genocide, but stopping short of calling for an immediate ceasefire. I wonder what the soldiers you met with think of all this. Are they feeling fatigued?
There's definitely fatigue there. But as for the ruling itself, obviously soldiers never comment on government policy or politics. When you ask them about civilian casualties, certainly genocide, they said they're doing everything they can to avoid it, but Hamas hides in schools, hospitals, tunnels, and many Israelis, or there are many examples of Israeli soldiers shooting unarmed civilians, even Israeli hostages in one case. As for Israel itself, the country is kind of split. Those who back Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who slam those charges of genocide as outrageous and are looking for total victory, and the others who say, look, enough is enough. We need to stop this, at least get a ceasefire in there, at least get the hostages out, and at least discuss some kind of end game.
Charlie, important reporting, and thank you for your context.
Thank you.